Okay, so someone did ask for um, for help on this homework problem. Find absolute extrema. So that's absolute um, extreme max and min, extreme maximum, extreme minimum. The domain is restricted to an interval from 7.2 to 7.4. It wants answers in ordered pair form rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, and the function formula expression is ln of 11x squared plus x minus 5. Okay, so let's get that working. Okay, now remember how you find the absolute maximum and minimum values. You have to check the candidate points. Oops. All right, so you've got to check the left and right boundaries of the interval. Well, that's a little lopsided, but there you go, the left and right boundaries of the interval, but also any critical points in the interval. So the first step of this is the derivative. Take a moment to do that and let me help someone here with a tech problem. I'll be right back. We're going to do derivative with respect to x of the formula for f. The outermost operation is the natural logarithm function. That means we need to use the derivative rule for the natural logarithm. And if you check on the video for this, and also in the slideshow and in the notes, the derivative of ln of stuff is reciprocal of the stuff times the derivative of the stuff. So derivative of logarithm is reciprocal. And since we almost always are doing the logarithm of something that involves several other operations, you almost always need the chain rule. So this is actually that the derivative of ln is reciprocal. And then this part is just the chain rule. So take a moment and see if you can complete f prime using that piece of information. Okay. Yeah, let me go back to my black ink. F prime of x. Okay, here's the stuff inside ln. That's what needs to go in that reciprocal part. So 1 over 11x squared plus x minus 5. And then over here, I need to put the derivative of the stuff. So derivative of 11x squared plus x minus 5. So that's just handling ln and setting up the product rule. Now, it should be clear how to finish. This is just the derivative of a polynomial. We've been doing these for a long time now. 22x plus 1. Okay, so let me just take a quick look at all this and be sure that we've done everything correctly. And if you like, you can clean this up. F prime of x is, and just put all of that together into a single fraction. Okay. Next step is let's look for critical numbers. So to do that, we've been doing that for a while now since chapter 3. We'll set f prime equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so 22x plus 1 over 11x squared plus x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, now at first this is kind of intimidating because you got this big fraction and there's 3 places where there's an x, and it's just kind of, well, it looks messy. But here's the thing to remember about solving a rational function equal to 0, that in order for the result of this division to be 0, the numerator has to be 0. There's no other way to get 0 out of division. And another way to see it is that you could multiply both sides by the denominator. It will cancel out with the denominator over there, leaving just the numerator, 22x plus 1. And then 0 times anything is 0. So it really is 0. At this point, things should be pretty easy to handle. We subtract the 1 over, divide by 22, and that leaves us with x equals negative 1 over 22. Okay, so any questions so far about this? Okay, now negative 1 over 22, let me grab the calculator here. I have a vague idea of what that is, but I may as well use the calculator. That is, and it repeats, it's an easy repeating thing here, so negative 0.045. Now, if you go back to the problem statement, let's just double check that we've got the right domain here. The domain that we got, it's from 7.2 to 7.4. Is the critical number in the domain? Nope, the critical number is not in the domain. So we did all of that solving, but the end result of it was that we had a number that's not in the domain, so we don't have to worry about it. So instead, the only candidates that we have to check are the left endpoint, so that was 7.2, and the right, which that was 7.4. So now we have to put these numbers into the original function. Now there's a couple of different ways to do this. Since we got to put in a couple of numbers anyway, I'm going to use the y equals screen and type the formula that we're working with up here. Ln of 11x squared plus x minus 5. And let's just be sure the table is still set up to ask. And looks like I've got some stuff in here from a previous problem. Let me clear that out. We're interested in 7.2 and 7.4. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that f of 7.2 is about 6.35. Am I reading that right? Just having trouble seeing this around all of my rigging. Yeah, so 6.35. The problem mentioned something about rounding to 2 decimal places, so I'm assuming it wants to the nearest hundredth. And f of 7.4 is 6.40, around a 6.40. So that's that second number. So looking at this, which of these numbers is the greatest and which is the least? Should be clear that this is the greatest, so that's the maximum, and this is the least, so that's the minimum. A way to check this is, let me go back to the calculator. Back to the calculator. I can go to the plot window and set x min to be 7.2, that's the left end of the domain. Set x max to be 7.4, which is the right end of the domain. X scale of 0.1 will be fine. Then for my y min and y max, this is a pretty tight range. Let me set this to, say, y min of 6.3 and a y max of 6.5. That should give us enough space to see it. So now let's draw the graph. And there it goes. And it's, kind of a boring, boring looking graph. But it should be clear that yes, the minimum is here on the left endpoint and the maximum is here on the right endpoint. Actually, let me come back to here. The last step is to figure out what to type in. And if you look at this, it says round your answers. It says write your answers in this form and round your answers to 2 decimal places. So what we need to do, this is just a screenshot, so I can't actually type it in. So the absolute minimum was at 6 point, no wait, I'm doing that wrong. That's the y coordinate. The x coordinate is the, it actually ended up being the left endpoint. So 7.2 and then the 6.35 goes there, and the absolute maximum was at 7.4 and 6.40.